You with your loved ones or your Valentine.
That's right.
Yeah, we like to see the pictures.
That's all.
1-800-Flowers made this whole thing possible.
Yes.
They've been growing them
Beautiful
since last
flowers.
Valentine's
That's
Day.
right. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about stuff in the news. You heard a moment ago, Judge Napolitano, he's going to be with us in a moment. But first, let's talk about the number one story down in Capitol Hill, and that is anything getting done in the U.S. Senate regarding DACA? We were told that they were going to have a freewheeling debate. It started a couple of days ago. And you know what? So far, a lot of speeches, but no votes under the big top.
Well,
I am optimistic they're going to get something done today in terms of speeches and postures and putting 25 people here and 25 there and 30 there. I think they're looking
What does
to
that
get.
do?
Well, I think they're going to begin to group. They're going to begin to group and find out where the momentum is. And when they feel as though they got 60, they're going to put it up for a vote. It's almost like the old-fashioned way to do it. If they can't get more than, if they don't get close to 50 or 60, where people might come over to a certain line of thought. I mean, I think Lindsey Graham, in particular, knows where everybody stands. Maybe he can bring some people together.
All right, well, the clock is ticking because the deadline's on March 5th. And there's talk inside the Senate that there's now going to be a skinny bill, which says, all right, we'll give you money for border security. Democrats say this. And
Just
Republicans say, we'll
tiny
give you a little bit. Republicans say, all right, we'll give you DACA. But they're taking out the clause about the visa lottery and
all the
chain
stuff
migration.
the president wants.
Right. They're changing what he wants.
The crazy thing is Democrats aren't against revisiting the chain migration or the visa lottery system. They're staking their claim for a negotiated purpose.
Well, in fact, the skinny bill essentially has what Ainsley said. It doesn't have the stuff that the president has made it very clear. I got four things. It's got to be in there, or I'm going to veto it. In fact, yesterday, the White House said he will veto that skinny bill if that goes through. Here's the president also talking about it's time for Democrats to come to the table and this time mean it.
We're asking Congress to support our immigration policy that keeps terrorists, drug dealers, criminals, and gang members out of our country. We want them out. That's why we're asking the senators to support legislation that contains the three vital elements of a safe immigration system. We want securing the border and a wall, ending chain migration, and canceling the visa lottery. In everything we do, we're listening to law enforcement, and we're putting the safety and security of American people first.
Okay, so that's the president. Then yesterday there was a judge here in New York City, U.S. District Judge Nicholas Garofas, I believe. Judge Napolitano, he said essentially, hold everything, Trump administration. Jeff Sessions was wrong when he said DACA was unconstitutional.
Judge Garofas in Brooklyn did the same thing as a judge in San Francisco did, which was to say people on DACA can stay. You can't kick them off. New people about to apply to DACA, it's the president's choice. So part of DACA has been restrained, that the old people that have been on it can't be kicked off. Part of it, that's up to the president to decide.
In your interpretation of the law, do they have a point? Are they correct? Does the law protect DACA?
Yes. In my opinion, I might have done the same thing. Obviously, I didn't read all the documents that the judges did. But once people plan their lives on something, particularly something this long, 14, 15, 20 years in the case of some of them, pulling the plug out from under them without a hearing, without examining each individual case, which would be impossible because there's too many people, is fundamentally unfair.
But it wasn't a law.
So what they have is the Supreme Court will maybe take a look at this now,
Unless Congress does. I mean, in fairness to President Trump, this is a congressional issue, and the Congress should resolve it, and the court will interpret the way Congress wanted it, whatever Congress does. The issue that we have here is that DACA was created by Barack Obama after the Republican Congress expressly rejected it. So you have something that the Congress doesn't want, and the courts are saying you got to keep enforcing it. The president doesn't want it, and Congress can't make up its mind.
And they won't have that 1.8 million. It'll be more like 700,000.
Yes.
As Jay Kelly famously said, some are afraid and some don't want to get off their asses.
Correct.
All right, Judge, let's talk a little bit about
This is a family show.
Yeah.
Right, and not anymore. Run for the hills.
You've been on the show for the last couple of months talking about Robert Mueller and the peril the president faces. Now the president's legal team has said, you know what? We have presented so many thousands of documents, made so many people available. You don't need to talk to the president.
I was surprised that they put that out last night. I mean, they are basically litigating their case in public. The decision about whether or not Donald Trump should meet with and be interrogated by Bob Mueller is between him and his lawyers. It is not doesn't involve the public. For some reason, they chose to put it out. So here's their argument. Because we have given you tens of thousands of pages of documents, you don't have a need to question the president. It actually works the other way around. Because they have given tens of thousands of pages of documents, they have waived executive privilege, and Bob Mueller is entitled to ask about those documents. But Bob Mueller can't force the president to speak to him. If the president says no, the only thing Bob Mueller could do is ask a grand jury to subpoena the president.
And will they? Will they?
If Bob Mueller asks them to, they will. I mean, the grand jury will do almost anything that prosecutors ask them to do. Then the president doesn't have his lawyers. It is just Bob Mueller and his people. He can invoke the Fifth Amendment if he wants. In my view, that'll be catastrophic politically, but it will protect him legally. Think of this as the whole thing. The Trump campaign, the hacking by the Russians as a jigsaw puzzle with 10,000 pieces. Bob Mueller has 9,800. Who has the other 200? Some of them Donald Trump has. Does Donald Trump want to help paint this picture for Bob Mueller? Of course not.
All right, there's a report that says Obama intelligence officials, including John Brennan and James Clapper, are the next targets in the investigation into the politicization.
The Nunes probe.
Yeah, the Nunes probe. Politicization.
On the House Intelligence
of
Committee.
the anti-Trump dossier.
In my opinion, that's exactly where they should go, and I'll tell you why, and they almost tipped their hands. The FISA application, which relied on the Steele dossier and Michael Isakov's Yahoo piece. If you read the Yahoo piece, it begins by saying, high-ranking intelligence officials have told me. Who do you think they were?
John Brennan.
Clapper and Brennan. He doesn't mention them by name. So the House committee has every right to ask them under oath. Did you tell this to?
Because we don't know.
Brennan said in a hearing, he said that he was not aware that Hillary Clinton or the DNC paid for that dirty dossier. Listen to this. This was May 2017.
And count how many times he might be perjuring himself.
Director Brennan, do you know who commissioned the Steele dossier?
I don't.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings, applications, petitions, pleadings?
I have no awareness.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No.
Why not?
Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence information that we had. It was not in any way used as a basis for the intelligence community assessment that was done. It was not.
Judge James Clapper famously lied on,
Well, we know that Clapper lied.
Right, but what about this guy?
Well, this is really Clinton-esque because the question was, did the CIA rely on it? If the question had been, did the CIA use it, there might have been a different answer. So I'm not sure if he was really splitting hairs or if he was misleading. But if you look at the look on Congressman Gowdy's face when he asked the questions, was this ever a part? He knew what the truthful answer was, and he knew he wasn't getting it from the witness. Same look on Senator Wyden's face when he asked Jim Clapper, are you guys spying on Americans? And Clapper said no, even though Wyden knew it. But correct.
So here's the
do these people ever get prosecuted for perjury? They don't.
How many times does Trey Gowdy do this? Months before we actually get the story, he knows the answer, and he gets it out by putting these people on the record with his questions. It's like he knows when they're not telling the truth.
And a guy like this is so fed up with this that he's leaving the Congress, with all the positive good that he has done by exposing.
But he puts people on the record.
Yes.
And so do you think they're looking there? It makes you wonder about the candor of this entire thing when you see these guys in these high positions holding so many of our nation's secrets.
Look at it this way. Is this another area for Bob Mueller to examine? Answer, yes.
But is he?
Will he? We don't know. We don't know where it's going to go because, he's going to release what he has when he decides
Judge, I don't see any indication that he's pursuing the other angle, the Clinton, the Clinton previous administration.
Sorry to say that I agree with you.
Well,
sorry to say because he should, but I don't see any of it.
Well, Devin Nunes, phase 2 is going after the State Department. Phase 3 is after the intel chiefs.
But Bob Mueller can indict. Devin Nunes can only embarrass.
There you go. All right. Judge, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure, guys.
All right, Jillian's behind
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Valentine's Day.
I'm thankful I got to see you twice in one day. Judge joined us in the 5 o'clock hour. Yes, 5 o'clock this morning. Thank you for joining us, Judge. Good morning to you. Let's start with this Fox News alert. A Chicago police officer gunned down confronting a suspect in broad daylight. 53-year-old Commander Paul Bauer shot by a man running from other cops. The suspect is a convicted felon. Hundreds of officers lining the streets to salute the fallen hero.
Commander Bauer was shot multiple times. Unfortunately, Commander Bauer passed away. And I just ask citizens of this city to keep the Bauer family in their prayers.
Bauer, 31-year veteran of the force, leaves behind a wife and 13-year-old daughter. 13 law enforcement officers have died in the line of duty this year. Bauer is the 5th killed since just last week. Terrifying video showing a United plane packed with people falling apart at 30,000 feet. The plane just 40 minutes away from its destination from San Francisco to Honolulu when the unthinkable happened.
Just heard a really loud bang. Was the right engine went?
The engine right where we were sitting, which would have been on the right side of the plane, was completely blown.
Just take a look. You see passengers bracing for an emergency landing. In a statement, the engine's manufacturer, Pratt & Whitney, says they're working with investigators to figure out exactly what happened. We're learning more about that suspicious package sent to Donald Trump Jr. The powder-filled letter contained a note reading, quote, "You're an awful person, and now you get what you deserve." Don Jr.'s wife, Vanessa, was rushed to the hospital after opening that letter. Turned out the powder was just cornstarch. That's a look at your headlines, guys. Frightening situation.
But they didn't know it was cornstarch when they opened it up.
Time.
Yep.
Right.
All right.
President
Thanks,
Obama's
Jillian.
office, too.
All right. Thanks, Jillian. Coming up, one of President Trump's cabinet members thanking a fellow cabinet member for being his inspiration.
To see a black man making such important contributions to the field of medicine, Dr. Carson, it lit a fire in me.
That man, our U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Jerome Adams, joins us with more of that story.
First time I ever interacted with a black physician was in college when I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Ben Carson. To see a black man making such important contributions to the field of medicine, Dr. Carson, it lit a fire in me. It instilled in me a belief that I could do the same.
Wow. The U.S. Surgeon General speaking from the heart yesterday, thanking a fellow cabinet member. You all know him, Dr. Ben Carson, for being an inspiration, arguably the best surgeon in the country, brain surgeon in the country, at a White House event hosted by the president in honor of Black History Month. Joining us right now to expand on this and so much more is U.S. Surgeon General himself, Dr. Jerome Adams. Dr. Adams, so many inspiring things about you, including your family. Your family was all military. You couldn't go into the military, but man, what a plan B.
Well, absolutely. I knew that I wanted to serve, couldn't because of my asthma, but found an opportunity to serve in a different way through the medical profession. I was inspired by the folks who were around me growing up, but none of them were black. I had never met a black doctor until I got to college and had the opportunity to learn about and to meet Dr. Carson.
And we just heard what you just said yesterday. Here's what Dr. Carson tweeted back. He said, "I'm humbled by your kind words. Americans may come from many backgrounds, but under the light of the operating room, everyone's brains look the same, and everyone can achieve great things if they set theirs to it." What's your thoughts on that?
Couldn't agree more. You know, a lot of folks debate the value of Black History Month, but yesterday's event and the president's remarks were so important because they inspire hope. And many folks know of my story. I have a brother who's in prison right now with substance use disorder. So within the same family, as taxpayers, folks can either pay for someone to be incarcerated or they can have a surgeon general. But we've got to help folks understand that there are options available to them to become a doctor, to become a police officer, to serve in the military. And that's why it's so important at yesterday's event that we shared these important stories of African Americans and blacks succeeding in this country.
And what did your parents and what do you say to people say, well, there's inequities in society? You know, we started as slaves in this country, brought here against our will, and people are angry about that. And we see it playing out on a daily basis. Why don't you have that anger?
Well, it's important that we know our history, but it's also important that we work together to figure out how we can move ahead. One of the things I've tried to do in my life and as Surgeon General is show everyone how we benefit from addressing inequity and how everyone can benefit from a more prosperous country. So I am so excited about the opportunity to be a part of this administration as Surgeon General, because I can shine a light on some of the issues and share some of the stories I faced.
Wow, and you are, and you did. And thanks so much for bringing it out yesterday. Great speech, speaking from the heart. And thanks for joining us this morning, Doctor.
And Brian, chocolate actually is good for you in small doses, so just remember that on Valentine's Day.
I know, but wouldn't broccoli be better?
Broccoli would be better, but I'm telling you, your wife is not going to like it if you bring home a box of broccoli.
You're the doctor. You win. More Fox and Friends and just...
News by the numbers. First, $100,000. That is how much President Trump just donated to the Transportation Department. The president handing over his fourth quarter salary to help fix the nation's crumbling infrastructure. Next, $10,000. That is how much a tiny little meteorite could be worth on the auction block. It was found by a Michigan couple in a frozen lake after a meteor shower last month. Christie's Auction House marketing is one of the most recent stones to fall from the sky. And finally, $1 million. That is how much money a man won playing the lottery after nearly losing everything in a house fire. He says he decided to buy the lottery ticket on a whim while he was visiting his father in the hospital in Canada and will use that money to build a new house. Steve?
That story has a happy ending. Thank you very much, Ainsley. A school in Philadelphia trying to pay students not to fight. If every 8th grader at Mitchell Elementary can make it to the end of the year with no physical violence, their principal will personally pay each of them $100. So, is that a good idea or a bad idea? We're going to have a fair and balanced debate. Dr. Wendy Osefo is a professor at Johns Hopkins University, and she lived in the Philly area. And Nikki Johnson-Houston is an attorney and mentor to young Philadelphia students. She joins us from the city of brotherly love. Nikki, let's start with you. You are a mentor to a number of young people there in Philly. You think this is probably a problem related to culture, right?
I do. Look, I understand and appreciate the innovative idea of trying to solve problems like violence in schools, but the idea that we would pay students for the bare minimum of behavior is unacceptable to me. I really think that we should be dealing with the underlying issues, which is deep poverty, the instability of some of these families, and the lack of resources.
Right.
And the violence comes from trauma. And so I'm not blaming the principal. She's trying to do what she thinks is best for her students, but we're expecting teachers and administrators to parent, and that puts them in an impossible situation.
Well, Wendy, this is an impossible situation for some of these kids. Some of these kids are actually homeless, they don't have parents, and $100 would do a lot in their lives.
Agreed, and I think that the issue of trauma is something that does need to be addressed. I often say it's not what we're doing, but it's why are we doing it, and we have to look at the root causes of this trauma. But let's look at the facts here. The facts are 30,000 upwards students get harassed in school during the school year, and then of that we have 143 which could result in injuries. So right now, even though it's not the best approach, it is one approach. Incentivized schooling has been a long history when it comes to school reform. Sure. This is nothing new. And even as parents, sometimes we tell our kids, if you clean the house or if you mow the lawn, we will give you some type of allowance. Right. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. This teacher, or this principal rather, is just using something that's close to their disposal to try to change the trajectory for students.
We've got a statement from
I disagree.
Hold on just a second. I'm going to read the statement from the school, and then you can disagree. They say Philadelphia's children, like children everywhere, respond to high expectations, positive reinforcement, kindness, and care. By using these concepts, Philadelphia schools have become a national leader in improving school climates, reducing school suspensions, and decreasing student arrests. And Nikki, pardon the interruption, but also it appears apparently it is working, because so far this year only 8% of the 8th graders have been suspended, and we're already to February.
What I'm going to say is I don't know that it's necessarily working. There's been a policy the last couple of years that's changed the criteria in which suspensions are given to students. And I do think that there should be positive reinforcement. But why aren't we rewarding students for good grades? Why aren't we rewarding students for positive attendance? Why aren't we rewarding students for improvement? Why are we rewarding students for not fighting? Bullying is absolutely an important issue, but the truth is that I come from a disadvantaged background. I was homeless myself, and I am a successful lawyer now. And part of that was I wasn't just taught academics, but I was also taught about the importance of character and values. So it does matter what you do. And the kids that I mentor, one of the things that I tell them is that sometimes you do the right thing because it's the right thing, not because you're being bribed, but the expectation of what it means to be a good citizen. And too many of our schools are failing, and I want these kids to be successful in life.
Wendy, Nikki makes some good points.
Absolutely, but you have to understand, as an educator, education is not binary in a sense. It's not mutually exclusive. You can do two things at one time. You can reward students for academic achievement. You can reward students for attendance, but you can also make sure that there is not violence in your school. You do not have to pick one, and that's what's going on here. And then that figure that you just mentioned is actually down 21% from 2016 as far as violence. So it is working. So we can incentivize education and still address the issues why these students are being violent at the same time.
I think we can all agree less fighting in a school is a good thing. How you do it, that's the big question. All right, Dr. Wendy Asefo and Nikki Johnson-Houston, we thank you ladies for joining us live.
Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day.
Indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Go Eagles.
There you go. You can tell what team she loves. She's from Philly. Meanwhile, remember when Nancy Pelosi said this about those $1,000 tax cut bonuses?
The crumbs that they are giving to workers to kind of put the schmooze on is so pathetic.
Yeah, one lawmaker didn't forget, and his new bill to put the schmooze on would actually protect those crumbs. And he's one of the funniest people alive, but Bill Murray has a very serious message for Democrats. You're going to want to hear this. And he supports the president's tax cuts and needs some last-minute ideas for Valentine's Day. How about dinner at home? How about chocolate waffles? Delicious. Bacon roses? Seared scallop? He's got them all. Coming up next. Hello, it's Valentine's Day. Here's one of your shots of the morning. Your pictures pouring in. Check out Sue in her Marine Corps gear, pictured with Sue's sweetheart, Mike.
Wow, and this is David with his wife, Jane. It is their first Valentine's Day as a married couple.
Oh, do something special for her. Congratulations. And here's Catherine standing between her two favorite lovebirds, her parents. They've been married for 63 years next week. Keep sending us your Valentine's Day photos. We're going to be showing them live all morning long. Congratulations to them. 63 years.
That's something. All right. In a couple of minutes, we're going to show you how you can make something special for your Valentine's today. It's going to be breakfast for dinner.
But first, Jillian Mealy's got the headlines.
Good morning, guys. All right, I'll relieve you right now. You guys go get ready for a cooking segment. I'll get you caught up on the news, starting with this. White House Chief of Staff John Kelly fighting back amid questions about his handling of domestic abuse allegations against former aide Rob Porter. The retired four-star general telling the Wall Street Journal that he would not have done anything differently, saying, quote, "It was all done right." A senior White House source telling Fox News there is no truth to the rumors that Kelly is on the outs. This as the FBI claims the agency's background check on Porter was done long before his resignation.
We administratively closed the file in January, and then earlier this month we received some additional information and we passed that on as well.
The administration says the investigation was ongoing. It's a real crummy piece of legislation. A Republican congressman taking a swipe at House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi after she criticized $1,000 tax cut bonuses.
In terms of the bonus that corporate America received versus the crumbs that they are giving to workers to kind of put the schmooze on is so pathetic.
Todd Rokita of Indiana is unveiling the Crumbs Act. The bill would make worker bonuses received this year tax-free, up to $2,500. The White House says more than 4 million people have gotten a bonus or pay raise due to tax reform. Police officers desperately trying to stop an out-of-control car when a driver calls 911 claiming the gas pedal is stuck. So cops using spike sticks to slow the car, speeding through Vero Beach, Florida at 100 miles per hour. Watch.
Yes, ma'am. I believe my gas pedal was stuck in my car, and I'm on the I-95. I'm about to hit somebody.
We've got troopers coming.
I'm switching right lanes right now. Get out the way!
Oh, so scary. Police eventually stopping the BMW. The driver was rushed to the hospital with chest pain. BMW says the car has no recalls. And breaking news about one of Brian's favorite presidents. Hair belonging to George Washington was found inside an almanac from 1793. The discovery happening at Schaefer Library on the campus of Union College in upstate New York. Turns out Washington had close ties to the Schaefer family, and it was not uncommon back then to give strands of hair as a gift of remembrance. Experts tested the locks and confirmed they were his. How cool. As you know, Brian wrote about our nation's founder in George Washington's Secret Six. So what do you think, Brian?
Hey, Jillian, I think the Schaefers are related to the Hamilton family, and they used to exchange hair of famous people.
Well, there you go.
And believe it's only worth about $2,000, Washington's hair.
Well, you know what? During Valentine's Day, don't exchange hair.
Right.
No.
Make them something to eat.
I'm glad we don't do that anymore.
That's right.
I do not want a lump of someone's hair as a gift.
Hey, say hello to Chef Mark Bailey. He's the author of a fascinating book. It's called Cooking in Boxers. And there he is, pictured on the cover in boxers.
Notice that red wig.
Happy Valentine's Day. 50 ways. You know, it's a little too chilly for boxers, I must say.
Mark, what do you mean cooking in boxers? Feel comfortable?
No, I'm comfort. Yes, that's my comfort. I don't advocate everyone to cook in boxers, but I do, so that's why I kept it pretty altruistic.
You are a self-described breakfast guru, so you're going to show us how to make breakfast for dinner.
You know what? It's going to be light and quick, so which is what, you know, some of the things I like about breakfast. You keep it fast and easy, and this is for those last-minute lovers. So I want to start with a little libation. You know, we always have to start with a little whet our appetite. This is created by Nicki Minaj. This is Mixed Fusions. It's a Moscato. Moscato is so great because it really can go with any, you know, your appetizer, your main course, your waffle.
Is it a bubbly white wine? Is that what it is?
Yeah, no. It's actually just a simple Moscato, original Moscato by Mix, and it's really, really good. Its flavor is really, really great.
It's
and what
delicious.
I've done is
Nicki
I put,
Minaj
Nicki Minaj created it. Yeah, it's really great. And what I've done is just put some frozen, you know, the fruit of love in there, strawberries. Exactly right. You know, you got to keep it, you know, Valentine's Day. Also, interactive food. I talk a little bit about it in my cookbook. Interactive food that you can dip and use your hands.
Yes.
I have a cheese fondue here. 3 simple ingredients: cornstarch, white wine, and your Swiss cheese. You melt it down. Yeah, melt it down in a crock pot.
They love
Great for dipping, serving to your loved one. Bread as well. Get any dippables that you like.
This is my favorite.
We've been talking a lot about flowers. But
Speaking about appetizers, this is Bacon Roses. This is Smithfield's hometown original bacon, and why I love it is that you basically, you know, there's a little arts and craft for you. You roll your bacon up like this, and you're going to basically bake it in the oven to get it nice and crispy. Not exactly. You want to get a thick cut bacon like Smithfield's thick cut, so it works really well. And I love bacon because it can, you know, breakfast, lunch, dinner, as well as dessert. Beautiful. Main course, real quick, scallops. You can saute them really, really fast. Season them with a little oregano, basil. You can actually start by sauteing some bacon first if you want to use that bacon grease oil basically to season your
I want you to
scallops.
do this waffle.
And then I also wrapped some of that Smithfield bacon with
you
some
love
asparagus.
bacon.
I love bacon, and of course, breakfast guru. Come on now.
Do you remember growing up when your mom had something to do and dad was in charge of dinner, and he always did breakfast for dinner, and the kids love
That's it because it's
pretty
easy.
What you doing here?
This is it. This is a chocolate waffle with strawberry. It's in heart shape. You come on, guys. You have to have a heart shaped waffle at home. This is by JCPenney. It's really great. These are the ingredients. I'm just going to go over it. I have the batter already pre-made, so if I can get someone just to pour that on the waffle, but I'll go over. Yeah, it's flour, sugar. You got cocoa powder is what makes the other. Yeah, as well as butter, and then there's eggs in there as well, and you want to put some extract as well, and then you get that all mixed up. Water as well. Yeah, you could just like fake it on there. And our waffle iron is ready, so we're gonna like put this in.
That's not the fire alarm.
Yeah, that's and then you just, you know, again, heart-shaped waffles. Way to go, guys. I know it seems a little corny.
So it looks like that at the end.
Exactly. Close that down. Boom. 2 seconds. It'll be done, and voila! It looks like that. Thank you.
I didn't even know as a kid you could make your own waffles. I thought everybody's were frozen.
You know what? I'd say run out to JCPenney and get all these little cute little doodads for decorations. Again, for those last-minute lovers, I do some one-stop shopping at JCPenney.
And you also recommend taking your shirt off, wearing your boxers?
You know, hey, that's after the meal, guys. Keep it clean. This is morning TV.
It's on the cover of your book.
I know.
For women or men?
For women or men, yes. Women, get in your boxers too. Yes, get in your boxers, ladies.
The recipes are simple, and they're on our website, foxandfriends.com. Chef, thank you
so
very
much. Thank you.
All right, let's change gears if we can. Maybe I should take a single shot. It's up to you, Keith. You decide. Joy Behar attacking Vice President Mike Pence over his faith.
Yikes.
It's one thing to talk to Jesus. It's another thing when Jesus talks to you. That's called mental illness, if I'm not correct.
Is this a new low for The View, or can they get lower today? We'll discuss
it. I watched the whole clip. You got to see it. I mean, it's crazy. We're going to be talking about it coming up. And Star-Spangled outrage growing in one school district after the national anthem gets banned from pep rallies. Your emails on this are coming in.
Woo! If it's meant to be, it'll be, it'll be. Baby, just let it be. So won't you ride with me, ride with me.
Minutes before the top of the hour, some quick headlines. Caught on camera edition. A man tries to get away from police officers by throwing meat, beer, and cheese out of a moving van. Watch this.
He gets the door wide open, he's throwing stuff out of it.
Wisconsin police trailing the driver suspected of shoplifting. They eventually got him to stop and arrested him for his 7th driving while intoxicated citation. And you can steal his heart, but not his giant teddy bears. A stuffed animal heist goes wrong when crooks rob a Valentine's pop-up store in the city of Phoenix. They grab the toys and jump inside a getaway car. The only problem, they got stuck at a red light. Look, that's the one law they followed. That gives workers time to force open the door and confront the crooks. They did not put up a fight, throwing the bears out of the car and speeding off. All right. Ainsley?
All right, thanks, Steve. Former White House staffer Omarosa Manigault Newman using her time on Celebrity Big Brother as an opportunity to bash the president, bash the administration. And yesterday it was Vice President Mike Pence, her bashing him, that got a lot of coverage and attention. Look at this.
He's extreme. I'm Christian. I love Jesus. But he thinks Jesus tells him to say things that are I'm like, Jesus, I say that.
It's one thing to talk to Jesus. It's another thing when Jesus talks to you.
Exactly. Okay, well, that's different.
That's different. That's called mental illness, if I'm not correct. My question is, can he talk to Mary Magdalene without his wife in the room?
Is this a new low for the ABC show? Here to weigh in on this is host of Truth Exchange, Kathy Barnett. Kathy, what do you think about that?
It was sad, wasn't it?
It really was.
It was really sad because, you know, on one hand, we recognize that these women are just blind, and what we typically see from the left is that if they don't understand something, they have a tendency to try to despise it or mock it because they don't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. They want to mock those who do. But we know that America is a Christian nation. Mm-hmm. Despite what Joyce says, despite what even President Obama declared many years ago, this is a Christian nation, founded on Christian Judeo principles, right? And we see it in the infancy of our founding documents when Thomas Jefferson called on the law of nature and the nature and the God of nature, and he later named him, he later identified that God as our creator who gave us these unalienable rights that our country has been founded upon. And so, yeah, it's really sad when you see something like that, even from Omarosa, but, you know, she's looking for relevance right now.
What'd you think about Omarosa? I mean, not being loyal.
She's looking for relevance. She's looking for relevance, right? She has fallen. Oh, how the mighty has fallen.
Is she a preacher? Her husband a preacher?
Not only is her husband, but I believe she also preaches on a regular basis. And so, again, right, it's sad. It's really, I mean, but another thing, I don't know sometimes if we're dealing with hypocrisy or if we're dealing with really demented or deranged people, because on one hand, they swoon over Kim Jong-un's little baby sister who is complicit with a murderous and tyrannical regime. But then on the other hand, they want to mock someone of integrity.
It's hypocrisy. You'll watch The View and they talk about the Me Too movement and they can't believe that people in Hollywood or the Harvey Weinsteins are doing this to young girls. But then they mock the vice president who doesn't want to go to dinner or go to an alcoholic event without his wife. Yes. He's trying to do the right thing. He's trying not to put himself in a bad position.
Right.
What's wrong with a man who doesn't want to cheat on his wife? I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. Apparently he's deranged. Apparently he has a mental disorder.
And I don't think. I think when Christians say that they hear from God, they don't necessarily mean that they hear this loud voice that's God from above speaking to them every day. I think we pray that God speaks to us, that God shows us what to do and what path to take.
Amen. Right. Yeah. Exactly. And that is is the overwhelming majority of Americans. And I think one of the things that Americans need to recognize is that when they despise or they mock our president or even Vice President Pence in this particular situation, they're not just despising them and mocking them. They're mocking us as well. And they're despising those of us who put this man into office. And so we need to start taking these things a little bit more personal, because they're not just mocking him, but they're mocking those of us
Christian
who believe
values.
this. Exactly, right?
Yeah, or faith-based values. You don't have to be a Christian to have those types of values.
No, you don't.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us, Kathy. It's really sad. You're right. Say a prayer for Joy Behar. All right, they're already giving sanctuary to illegals. Now one city is creating a safe haven for pot smokers. Is that a good idea? We're going to debate it coming up. And Hollywood funny man Bill Murray has a serious political message for the Democrats. Carly Shimkus is here.